Tonight, Novak Djokovic's ban overturned, cleared to return to Melbourne for the Australian Open. Also a police emergency operation in Melbourne's north. Details live. The AFL set to take action against the umpire linked to the Brownlow medal betting scandal. Shoppers facing a new Christmas threat as chaos looms at major ports. Melbourne shivers as the state faces more weird weather. And later, the teacher fighting for a miracle after appendicitis shattered her world.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell starts now.
Good evening. Tennis star Novak Djokovic is set to return to Melbourne after his ban on entering the country was overturned. The details are just emerging this evening. Blake Johnson is at Melbourne Park, and Blake, it means Djokovic can now play in the Australian Open in January.
Pete, it appears Novak Djokovic will receive a visa to enter Australia in January next year. Immigration Minister Andrew Giles cancelling that automatic 3-year ban given to anybody who has their visa cancelled. Australia no longer requiring international visitors to be vaccinated against COVID. But to remove that automatic ban, the Immigration Minister must be satisfied that compelling circumstances exist to let a person in who had previously had their visa revoked. Djokovic's visa was revoked under the former government and then upheld in a very dramatic federal court battle on the eve of this year's Australian Open. Djokovic also missed the US Open because of his stance. When he returns to Melbourne Park, he will be going for his 10th Australian Open title. Peter?
Blake Johnson at Melbourne Park, thank you. The police bomb squad is leading a marathon operation in Melbourne's north. Estelle Griepink is on Racecourse Road at Kensington, and Estelle, a minor car crash has sparked this major response.
Well, Mitch, this operation has just entered its 6th hour and Racecourse Road has been closed in both directions. It is just starting to open now. This is all as the bomb squad has done everything it can to make sure that this area is safe. This all unfolded around 12:30 this afternoon after a white Range Rover crashed into a pole. Police say they arrived on scene shortly after and searched the car. That's when they say they found a gun and a suspicious package. And this afternoon, our cameras captured at least one item being removed from that car. This is a busy area. It's in front of public housing towers. The good news is we've just been told by police that the package has been declared non-suspicious. As for the driver, he's a 30-year-old man from Taylor's Hill. He was arrested at the scene here on Racecourse Road and he's now assisting police with their inquiries. Mitch?
Estelle Griepink at Kensington, thank you. The AFL's Brownlow medal scandal is deepening, with calls to strip umpires of the right to vote on the game's most prestigious award. The umpire at the centre of the saga is set to be stood down over the betting bombshell.
Michael Pell has been a footy umpire since he was 13. This year, as the 32-year-old broke into the elite AFL level,
he has a chance to kick his third.
His career is on the brink, set to be charged as the central figure arrested over allegations he leaked Brownlow medal vote information. Mr Pell from Glenroy umpired 16 AFL games this year. Police say he revealed secret Brownlow votes to 3 others, who then placed bets through multiple wagering agencies, which detected irregularities and reported the bets to the AFL.
This is one lone wolf, so don't put all the other umpires down because they've kept it secret for, 50 years. It's one bloke who has given a bad name to all the other umpires.
Some players are pushing for umpires to be bounced from the Brownlow process.
This is another reason as to why umpires shouldn't have to vote straight after the game. Leave it to an expert panel that can decide. I agree. I'd give it to someone who's been watching the game and sitting up high and understands what's happened.
Police now working with the AFL to confirm how many matches are connected and how much money was involved.
In all the conversations I've ever had with Gil and with others, they take integrity very seriously and they want to safeguard our game.
Like all AFL umpires, Michael Pell is currently on holiday leave, but the league said today it will activate its internal policies, meaning it's likely he will be stood down until the court process is complete. Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
5 girls from a prestigious Victorian private school have been held in a Singapore jail cell for 10 hours. Rochelle Brown is at Bacchus Marsh Grammar this evening. Rochelle, they're accused of shoplifting.
Mitch, the Year 10 students were on a netball trip when they were arrested and detained for several hours. It's understood they were caught with items from Victoria's Secret and Crocs shoes. No charges have been laid at this stage, but talks with officials are ongoing. Although Singapore is tough on vandalism, the penalties for shoplifting are actually lower than in Australia.
Given that this is juvenile, the chance of a probation, some community service is actually quite a likely outcome.
Bacchus Marsh Grammar Principal Andrew Neal says the police have been firm, fair and thorough, and he hopes they will have finalised their investigations by later this week. Now, the 18 students were scheduled to return home to Australia in the coming days. It's still unclear whether the 5 girls will be allowed to leave. Mitch?
Rochelle Brown at Bacchus Marsh, thank you. Shoppers and businesses are facing more pain leading up to Christmas as an industrial dispute escalates at major ports. A tugboat company is preparing to lock out its crews, causing chaos across the country.
The Maritime Union is calling it supply chain sabotage. From Friday, critical workers at the Port of Melbourne will be locked out by their employer. No cargo or cruise ships will be towed in.
They're vertically and horizontally integrated into our national supply chain, and they're going to hold the country to ransom.
The nation's biggest tugboat operator, Spitzer, says it has no choice because the union's ongoing industrial action is constantly disrupting its service. A dispute over wages and conditions has dragged on for 3 years.
We generally feel sorry that it has come to this because we do recognise that when a tug doesn't work, the vessels cannot go in and out of ports. And that is the lifeblood of Australia.
The dispute will be felt by consumers. 17 ports will grind to a halt across the country. Food and medicines among the supply chains to be disrupted.
I think the real problem might be in other industries, such as the construction industry, medicines perhaps, and in manufacturing, depending on how long a dispute such as this lasted.
As well as pulling in ships, tugboats are on call for rescues. In July, they came to the aid of a stranded container ship off the New South Wales coast.
The tugboat operator has applied to the Fair Work Commission to rip up the old workplace agreement that expired in 2019. They argue it gives unions too much power over management decisions, including on who gets hired.
With the dispute reaching a stalemate, the planned lockout could continue indefinitely. Emma O'Sullivan, 7 News.
It could be more than a week before rail tracks are cleared following yesterday's freight train derailment near Geelong. Excavators are starting to remove the 16 carriages that came off the tracks at Inverleigh. Work will be carried out around the clock, but it could take another 10 days. A man accused of murdering his mother at Bayside, Chelsea, claims he's been framed. Thomas Bednar has pleaded not guilty to killing 78-year-old Judy Bednar last year. A jury's been told Bednar was angry at his mother because she was trying to get him treatment for his deteriorating mental health. The prosecution says there is CCTV of Bednar that places him at the scene of the crime. But his lawyers argue the man in the video isn't him. Dirty tactics have returned in the state election campaign, with some Liberal MPs accused of liking racy social media accounts. But the coalition was keen to keep the attention on its plan to secure Victoria's gas supplies.
Racy social media accounts followed by senior Liberal MPs made for an awkward media conference for Matthew Guy.
Porn stars, lingerie models, Playboy, Playmates. Is that appropriate for some of the senior party figures?
No, well, you can make commentary on that.
Aspiring Treasurer David Davis, as well as Brad Batten and James Newbury among the politicians named in a dirt file for following soft porn accounts.
I'm not interested in who likes what on social media.
Matthew Guy was in Warragul today, the candidate there also named in the dirt file.
Was he told not to attend to
Not by me, no.
Was he told by someone else not to
I don't audit everyone's telephone calls, and no, I don't believe that's the case.
The scandal came as Labor announced a $71 million election promise to establish new health and sexual health clinics for women to help women experiencing menopause and endometriosis.
My message to Victorian women with this package is that we hear you and we are going to do more and do better to provide you with the care that you need.
This is a real game-changing announcement for women.
The promises keep coming, but some Victorians have already made up their mind. A record 115,000 votes were cast yesterday. That's up 52% on day one of 2018. The Liberal Party hopes a policy to keep 100% of new gas found in Victoria for Victorians will win votes, but the report they've relied on to prove there are gas reserves in the state is out of date, according to Victoria's chief scientist.
I don't accept that at all.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
Health authorities have issued a national recall on poppy seed products after dozens of people were treated for poisoning. Affected seeds contain a toxic compound that can cause cramping, seizures and even cardiac arrest. The recalled products can be found on the Foods Standard Australia website. Anthony Albanese is minutes away from the most high-stakes meeting of his prime ministership with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The PM is hoping for a breakthrough in Bali as he attempts to convince Beijing to drop its $20 billion trade sanctions.
Running on hope towards a new moment in history. Democracy re-embracing communist autocracy. Knowing the future of the world is in these hands.
We share a responsibility, in my view, to show that China and the United States can manage our differences, prevent competition from becoming anything ever near conflict.
President Xi says China doesn't seek conflict nor to change the world order. His tone conciliatory, his message blunt.
The world has come to a crossroads. Where to go from here? This is a question that is not only on our mind, but also on the mind of all countries.
For 3 hours, an open, frank exchange. President Biden's red lines: don't invade Taiwan, bring North Korea to heel, and bring Russia to the negotiating table to find peace in Ukraine. From President Xi: drop US trade sanctions, recognise Taiwan as part of China, and keep relations warm.
I absolutely believe there need not be a new Cold War.
Nor a hot one.
And I do not think there's any imminent attempt on the part of China to invade Taiwan.
And Anthony Albanese's own meeting with Xi Jinping is about to get underway here at the Chinese President's Hotel. The fact that it's happening at all is significant, but the outcome is crucial for Australia's economic security and safety.
From China's foreign ministry,
we hope Australia will follow the spirit of mutual respect and seeking common ground while reserving differences.
Anthony Albanese says that is his objective.
We need to cooperate with China where we can. We'll disagree where we must, but we'll act and have dialogue in our national interest.
Hoping China eases its $20 billion trade sanctions and hoping to turn economic and military tension back to friendship as the G20 gets underway under the shadow of rampant inflation, looming global recession and war. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky addressing the summit virtually with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in the room, telling leaders now is the time to end Russia's invasion. Indonesian President Joko Widodo's message to Moscow, direct.
If the war does not end, it will be difficult for the world to move forward.
And for world leaders, a new complication. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen testing positive for COVID. World leaders realising their ASEAN host was also hosting the virus.
And Mark Riley joins us from Bali tonight. Mark, what's the Prime Minister expecting from this meeting with the Chinese President?
Well, Mitch, that meeting's about to get away at the Chinese President's highly secured villa here in this Bali hotel. And Anthony Albanese wants to see less of the wolf warrior that Xi Jinping has been demonstrating domestically and more of that pragmatic peacemaker who turned up for the meeting last night with US President Joe Biden. It's no coincidence that the Australian meeting comes straight after his meeting with America. President Xi sees Australia as America's staunchest ally in the region, and he knows if he's going to strike a new deal with America, then he has to drop his animosity towards Australia. It's a very important strategic leveraging point that Anthony Albanese is aware of, and one he might employ in those talks tonight as he tries to re-engage at a leadership level with China, but not at any price. Mitch.
Mark Riley in Bali, thank you. Coronavirus infections have almost doubled across the country in 1 week, with just under 8,000 average daily cases. Experts estimate we're near the middle of this latest COVID wave.
If you're one of those millions of people in Australia who have not had the third dose and you are eligible, or the fourth dose and you are eligible, now is the time to go and get it.
Australia's Vaccine Advisory Group will determine if a third booster or fifth dose will be needed heading into next winter. Children under 6 with special conditions can now access the Pfizer shot. The flood threat is far from over in New South Wales. A torrent of water from Wyangala Dam upstream of Cowra is spilling at a rate of 230,000 megalitres a day. It's the equivalent of draining Sydney Harbour every 48 hours. Forbes in the Central West is bracing for its worst flooding in recorded history. Homes and properties have been destroyed, with emergency crews receiving close to 1,000 calls for help. It has been a bitterly cold mid-November day in Melbourne, with the temperature barely passing 13 degrees in the city. Sonia Marinelli joins us now, and Sonia, the wild weather across much of the state continues.
Yes, Mitch, just when we thought summer was around the corner, this hailstorm hit Aintree between Caroline Springs and Melton early this afternoon. The flash flooding danger continues. Last night, 2 people had to be rescued when their Toyota became stuck in floodwater in Tarneit. And check out what started as a sinkhole but then soon opened up to cut a road in two at Rutherglen near the New South Wales border. But, Mitch, there is hope on the horizon. We're finally warming up again later this week.
Good news and incredible pictures. Thank you, Sonia Marinelli. Richmond superstar Dustin Martin won't be penalised over video of him touching a topless woman 7 years ago. The AFL's Integrity Department investigated the 2015 Mad Monday video that became public just before the Tigers' final against Brisbane this year. No complaint was received, and the league has now confirmed the matter is closed. Tim Watson joins us now with a look ahead to sport. And Tim, Pat Cummins has made $1 million call on his future.
He has, Mitch. He's made a massive sacrifice for World Cup and Ashes glory. That's ahead as the Aussies assemble in Adelaide, with Travis Head putting his hand up for a leading one-day role. Also, a Socceroos legend drops into the Aussie camp ahead of the World Cup. And Mitch, Jeff Kennett has unleashed a massive spray. Not for the first time. I'll see you again soon.
You'll have that later. Thank you, Tim. The cost of flying is soaring as Victorians return to the air. Next, how a bigger choice of destinations could bring those prices down. Also coming up, tragedy on Bridge Road as a car cannons into a Richmond shop. Volodymyr Zelensky's bold prediction as Ukraine reclaims lost ground. Later, the world first to help the smallest newborns live a healthier life.
And the chill continues, but there's warmth on the horizon. Full details later in 7 News.
A driver was killed following a crash at Richmond this morning. The vehicle hit a pole on Bridge Road, then veered into the front of a shop, trapping the man behind the wheel. He was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries and died a short time later. Police are trying to piece together exactly what caused the crash. Melbourne Airport is on a charm offensive to lure new airlines here and increase competition. Global industry insiders have gathered in Melbourne this week, and they have some good news for travellers.
October was Melbourne Airport's busiest month since the pandemic. Demand ensuring prices stay elevated, but increased competition is on the horizon. Melbourne Airport wants Air Canada to return and Delta to start flying here. Those negotiations underway at our convention centre this week.
The airlines are basically having a kind of speed dating event for 4 days.
Called the Slot Conference, hundreds of airlines have 15-minute appointments with airport coordinators, advising what time slots are available next year.
So these are slots that were denied.
A competitive game of aircraft Tetris. No nighttime curfew gives Melbourne an advantage. We've taken Qatar's double daily flights from Sydney.
The mid-2030s will also become the busiest airport in Australia, so I think our focus is not just competing with Sydney. I think it's really about holding our own.
The biggest reason for travel through Melbourne Airport was once leisure. Now it's visiting friends and relatives.
After 2 years of lockdowns, is people really desperate to connect with family. Top of that list is India, followed by New Zealand and the UK.
Some at this conference think a return to pre-COVID airfares is possible, but not for a while. Russian airspace remains closed to many of the airlines participating here. Fuel prices are still sky high, and aircraft and staff shortages will not be a quick fix.
There's turbulence, there's headwinds, but there's also a lot of enthusiasm and optimism out there.
Blake Johnson, 7 News.
A huge blaze erupted in piles of plastic in Sydney today, the inferno sending plumes of toxic fumes into the air. Residents were urged to shut their windows until the smoke cleared. It took crews 5 hours to bring the blaze under control. Ukraine's president has received a hero's welcome on a triumphant visit to the newly liberated city of Kherson. Volodymyr Zelensky described it as the beginning of the end, but says victory comes at a high price.
A moment reflecting Volodymyr Zelensky's defiance and his country's soaring morale. Welcomed by Kherson residents who this time last week were living under Russian control.
I'm happy. We are in Kherson, and so you see the reaction of the people. I think that is the answer. What can I say? Great job of our soldiers.
Few people here disagree.
We are trying to be together, and Khersonians they are unreal people.
But still, Russian forces are close. The river marking the new front line is just kilometres away. The job here now is to clear landmines, restore essential services and document war crimes. Killings and abductions Moscow denies, while claiming that Kherson still belongs to it, even though this is the reality on the ground.
What next? Not Moscow. We are not interested in territories of another countries. We're interested only in the occupation of our country, of our territory.
Sarah Greenolge, 7 News.
Back home, the bravest Victorians have been honoured at a ceremony at Government House. Russell Irwin raced to help a neighbour under attack from intruders.
Well, I accepted it was just so my kids can see it. They get something out of it.
You have to be brave about it. You have to take life by the horns, pretty much. You can't be scared.
Trinity Bennett saved her mother's life after their car crashed off a cliff. Well done to all. The world hits a major milestone. Next on 7 News, 8 billion people and counting. What's next as the population explodes? Also coming up, a green coup in the battle for control of our biggest power company, what it means for customers. And a truck rollover causes traffic chaos in Melbourne's north. A rubbish truck rollover has caused traffic mayhem in Melbourne's north. Police suspect the driver took a corner too quickly when turning at an intersection in Coolaroo. The truck driver escaped unharmed, but Barry Road was closed just before 2 p.m. for the clean-up operation. Billionaire climate change activist Mike Cannon-Brookes has led a boardroom coup against Australia's largest energy company, AGL. With 4 new Green board members, the power giant could see an internal revolt against the company's own core business, with huge implications for consumers.
Protests outside the energy giant's AGM.
Dangerous and dirty. Quit coal by 2030.
A green sweep inside. AGL's board of 5 grew to 9. 4 new members put forward by climate activist and tech multi-billionaire Mike Cannon-Brookes.
This is globally significant, what's happened. Australia's biggest climate polluter is now going to be transformed into a renewable energy powerhouse.
AGL supported just one of the new appointments, former Tesla executive Mark Twidell.
Leading Tesla's energy programs, battery storage rapidly became a key technology.
But rejected the other 3, Christine Holman, Kerry Schott and Professor John Poles. It was shareholders who had the final vote.
4 directors that have been proposed by a shareholder to be elected is unprecedented.
They were too slow to move away from fossil fuels, which have now become a much more expensive cause of power generation.
This year they announced plans to close the Loy Yang A coal-fired power plant a decade early. The company behind all this is called Grok Ventures, a private investment firm run by Mr Cannon-Brookes and his wife Annie. This year it became AGL's biggest shareholder with 11.28%.
And we certainly have seen shareholders raising their voice incrementally over the last decade, but having a few $1 billion behind a decarbonisation effort absolutely makes a huge difference.
Christy Cooper, 7 News.
Overseas, a former college footballer is in custody after a deadly mass shooting at a university in the US city of Charlottesville. 3 students were shot and killed and 2 others wounded. The victims are current players shot on a bus as they returned from a trip to Washington, D.C. And former Vice President Mike Pence has taken aim at Donald Trump over the January 6th riots. The Republican says he was angered by President Trump's actions as protesters stormed the Capitol building.
It angered me. I mean, the president's words were reckless. It was clear he decided to be part of the problem.
Mr. Trump is expected to announce his plans to run for president in 2024 within days. The world's population has ticked over a major milestone. According to the United Nations, there are now 8 billion people living on Earth, half of them crammed into just 7 countries.
Somewhere on the planet, at some time today, the population hit 8 billion. The United Nations is calling today a global milestone.
So it's a scary number, 8 billion.
And it's happened in the shortest time ever, jumping from 7 billion in just 11 years.
The acceleration in population is a really worrying thing.
Half of the population lives in just 7 countries, with India's total set to pass China's any day, then Africa set to overtake Asia this decade.
More than half of that growth will come from Africa, so a changing of the guard there.
It took all of human history until 1803 to reach the first billion in population. It took another 124 years to hit 2 billion in 1927, then just 33 more years to reach 3 billion. And since then, the swinging 60s, it's been 1 billion every dozen years or so. By the time this report is over, another 230 babies will have been born somewhere on the planet. But the growth rate is actually slowing down. Experts saying we've already hit peak child. Fertility numbers are falling. The peak around 2050.
The predictions currently show that we will plateau at 10.4 billion.
Chris Reason, 7 News.
Incredible. Melbourne is rallying to help a prep teacher fighting for a miracle after appendicitis brought her world crashing down. Her story's coming up next. Also ahead, machete terror in a service station ordeal. How a garbage truck driver did a rubbish job in Melbourne's southeast. And the world first, giving our tiniest newborns a shot at a healthier life. Detectives from Ballarat are hunting a man who used a machete to hold up a Mitchell Park service station earlier this month. He asked for 2 packets of cigarettes, then jumped the counter before fleeing with cigarettes and cash. The attendant was not injured. A Melbourne school teacher is fighting for her life after a routine appendix operation led to a shock diagnosis. Now she desperately needs help to get to Japan for treatment.
To her students, she's Miss B.
Catherine Berachik has been showered with love by the children she can no longer teach.
I honestly have the best job in the world. I love my preppies so much and I wish I could still be there. You are so very strong. Keep fighting and you'll get better. Isn't he gorgeous?
What started as routine appendicitis has become a fight for life. Catherine has stage 4 appendix cancer. The chances of getting it are 1 in a million.
The pain was horrific, and when you've got a cancerous appendix, what actually happens is once it bursts, it spreads cancerous cells throughout your body. So it's like a cancer bomb.
The 33-year-old had 3 operations to remove multiple organs. Despite 22 rounds of chemotherapy, the aggressive cancer is back, and Catherine has exhausted all options in Australia. Her only hope is cutting-edge immunotherapy treatment in Japan.
You know, it's really scary to put your hands in the lives of someone else overseas, but I'm excited. I'm so excited to have this option.
This is looking like her best and last option. Travelling overseas is never anybody's first option. It's terrifically complicated, but this cancer is obviously incredibly complicated and is requiring some really out-of-the-box thinking.
1,000 generous friends and strangers have raised enough to fund Catherine's first trip, but she needs more.
Just want to send the biggest kiss to all those beautiful people because you're helping me achieve my dreams. You're helping me to get over there.
Her hope is to one day return to the classroom. Jackie Quest, 7 News.
Good luck with it all, Catherine. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos says he plans to give away most of his wealth within his lifetime. One of the richest men in the world, he has an estimated fortune of $185 billion. But he says finding the right charities to support isn't easy.
So we're building the capacity to be able to give away this money.
He has just given Dolly Parton $150 million to give to charities of her choice. Swedish electric car maker Polestar has unveiled its vision for the future of sports cars right here in Melbourne. The electric roadster concept car can hit 250 kilometres per hour and will set you back around $200,000. But you'll have to join the waiting list because you cannot buy them just yet. Garbage collection didn't quite go to plan in the city of Casey. A home security camera filmed the truck letting go of the green wheelie bin too early, so it ended up in the rubbish. The driver then kept going. Casey Council says it happens from time to time. A contractor will follow up with the residents to offer a replacement bin, apologising for the inconvenience caused. Sport is next with Tim Watson. And Tim, a packed schedule has cost Pat Cummins millions.
Mitch, the Aussie skipper, is putting country ahead of cash. Details next. Also, the contenders emerged to replace Aaron Finch for top billing against England. Jeff Kennett causing more trouble ahead of the Hawks boardroom showdown. The Roos and Demons out to create history in the AFLW, and a Socceroos legend helping putting the finishing touches on our World Cup preparations. Welcome back. Aussie cricketers say it's become impossible to play all formats in cricket's overloaded calendar. Test and one-day skipper Pat Cummins will skip next year's IPL to freshen up for the Ashes series in the UK and the World Cup.
When it came to replacing retired opener Aaron Finch, one man stood head and shoulders above the rest.
It'd be silly if anybody didn't want to play at another level on Thursday, not opening the batting. Hope to get a nice crack at it, so hopefully take my opportunities.
Head will partner David Warner at the top of the order against England on Thursday and won't be the only fresh face in Australia's ODI side. Glenn Maxwell is still in hospital with a broken leg, opening the door for others to stake their claim.
It's a huge loss. I guess it gives opportunity again. There's some all-rounders around the country that will be given that go.
The 3-match series will be Australia's first with Pat Cummins at the helm. The skipper today revealed he's putting country before cash and foregoing next year's IPL, a move that will cost him more than $1 million.
We'd love to play everything, but I think it's not possible. So, obviously it's a huge sacrifice for him in the scheme of things.
The captain's call follows David Warner indicating he'll step away from Test cricket next year to prolong his short-form career. Carey is confident Australia's failed T20 World Cup campaign will have no bearing on the ODI series against England.
I don't see there any hangover from the World Cup. I think every team lost a game, and unfortunately it was just a run rate. So I think the boys are in pretty good nick.
The newly crowned T20 world champs are still riding high, but are wary of an Aussie side that failed to make finals on home soil.
It's not just we're going to turn up and they're going to roll over. It's going to be a really hard-fought three-match series.
Natalie Yanides, 7 News.
20-year-old Campbell Callaway top scored with 34 on debut as Victoria were bowled out for 171 in their Marsh Cup clash against Queensland. But he was later sent into the bush to retrieve a ball hit for 6.
Watch out, young man, there's snakes in those trees.
I was going to say, that's not the safest place.
The ball ended up in the car park as Queensland chased down the target with ease in the 36th over to win by 7 wickets. Jeff Kennett has waded into the boardroom battle at Hawthorn, taking a pot shot at former Deputy Premier James Merlino. The Hawks' presidency is up for election along with 3 vacant seats on the board, but Kennett unleashed on Twitter saying unemployed James Merlino, having jumped the Andrews disastrous government, now wants to join the Hawthorn board. Now he wants to infect a great club. No way. They want to turn the clock to Hawthorn Football Club being a men's club only. The club's AGM is on December 13. Only the Kangaroos stand in the way of Melbourne becoming a second making a second straight AFLW grand final.
We have been close, but we haven't, obviously, we haven't got there. We haven't deserved it in previous seasons, and it's something we really have to earn.
That's always going to be a little carrot. You see that Premiership Cup, every team wants to win it. It's not just us, and it's not just Melbourne that want to.
The Kangaroos are looking to become the first team to come from 8th to make the grand final. The Socceroos are drawing inspiration from one of the country's greatest players ahead of the World Cup. Legend Tim Cahill is helping out with their preparations at the request of coach Graham Arnold. Cahill works at the Aspire Academy, where the Socceroos are based, and had plenty of wisdom to impart after playing in 4 World Cups.
He gives advice, it spills out of his mouth. I don't think he can help it. To get that kind of one-on-one time with such a legend is priceless, and I'm definitely soaking it all in and trying to learn as much as I can in this short period of time.
Australia's first game is against defending champions France on November 23. The Kyrgios Kokkinakis double act was unable to shake off the rust in their opening match at the ATP Tour Finals in Turin. Kyrgios only arrived the day before the tournament and didn't even train with Kokkinakis until an hour before their clash with the world's top-ranked duo. The Aussies went down in a match tiebreak. They need to win their remaining 2 matches to reach the semi-finals. Josh Giddey wasn't able to replicate yesterday's heroics in New York as he came up against the red-hot Boston Celtics. The Aussie hit 16 points, but his Oklahoma City Thunder coughed up a 12-point lead.
Oh, yeah.
The Celtics winning 126 to 122. Young side they are. Mitch, they ran at a puff. They looked like they were heading for victory at one stage.
Did they?
Yeah, and very good.
We could still put Tim Cahill on the bench against France in Doha, couldn't we?
No, he still looks in pretty good nick,
doesn't he? I miss him dearly. Thank you very much, Tim. Melbourne researchers are offering new hope for infants born prematurely. It's a world first, harvesting the baby's own stem cells to regenerate their underdeveloped bodies.
Born into the world at 27 weeks gestation, identical twins Noah and Nate. Noah weighed in at just 500 grams, Nate only a kilo. So tiny, yet so determined.
Obviously there's a lot of challenges we're going to face along the way.
The bigger of the brothers, Nate, is one of 11 babies here at Monash Children's to be infused with his own cord blood, harvested at birth.
If we can take cord blood from tiny little babies and use it to help them, then this could be a game changer.
Researchers at Monash Health are trialling the therapy in babies born less than 28 weeks and severely underweight. These babies have a low chance of survival and risk developing major health complications like brain and lung damage.
What we're looking at is looking at something called regenerative medicine. So it's can we use the properties of these cells to help the body heal when it's been injured.
Cord blood is already used to treat at least 80 health conditions like childhood leukemia. An increasing number of parents are choosing to store their baby's cord blood as an insurance policy to treat disease that may develop later in life. But this is the first time cord blood therapy has been trialled in a baby this premature anywhere in the world. This trial is testing if it can be done. The next step, a more extensive clinical trial.
There still are a lot of battles that we've got to overcome, so I'm really hoping this helps him every step of the way.
Sonia Marinelli, 7 News.
Jane Bunn is next with the forecast. And Jane, there is warmer weather coming, right?
Mitch, it will feel warmer at the end of the week, but we certainly remain chilly until then. The full details are next.
Hello. Tonight on the latest from 7 News, at any second now, a moment 6 years in the making. Anthony Albanese to meet with Xi Jinping. We'll go live to Bali. The unbelievable flooding happening in New South Wales. Our reporter's in that disaster zone. Plus a curious claim. Is this newborn really the 8 billionth person on Earth? When it breaks, we'll have it live. The latest at 10:55.
Hello again. Now next, a nice day with warmer air and bright sunshine isn't until Friday. It remains rather chilly until then. Today began on 8, it only reached 13. That's typical temperatures in mid-July. The temperature drops whenever a shower passes through and only recovers slightly in the sunny breaks in between. The roughness of the bay shows us that the wind is up, and the wind chill is what we're really feeling out there today. At times it feels close to zero. Now right now it is actually a wind chill of 0 in Point Cook. This close to summer, our coldest days usually reach 15, and there's the odd top of just 14. Today's 13.1 is the chilliest it's been this late in the year in 16 years. If you're in southern Victoria, you're seeing plenty of showers passing through, sometimes with wintry hail. If you're on the ranges above 800 metres, that's falling as snow. Just north of the ranges, the odd shower is making it through, and while the far north is generally dry, it's certainly feeling the cold air. The isobars, the white lines, show that the air we're breathing today has come straight up from Antarctica. Victoria's heavy rain has cleared, but southern Tasmania is being drenched with a low nearby. The instability gradually moves away, but we don't thaw out until this high-pressure system here moves through. So the chill continues tomorrow and on Thursday too. Then the high moves in and both Friday and Saturday feel a lot nicer. However, with that warmth comes an increase in tropical moisture, and our next risk of heavy rain arrives in Victoria on Saturday into Sunday. So currently, cold outbreak, then it warms up again, and then localised heavy rain may return. Around the nation tomorrow, Sydney, the burst of showers due in the afternoon. Cold and shower in Canberra and Hobart with wintry hail. Cloudy in Adelaide. Brisbane and Perth warm and sunny, but Brisbane sunshine comes with a gusty wind. To Victoria, snow on the ranges, that stretches right up to the central tablelands in New South Wales. Snow down to 800 metres, gradually rising during the day. Otherwise, widespread showers on and south of the ranges, but not much north of the divide where there's actually the risk of frost in these parts at first. Now closer in, it's just like today. Showers streaming through on cold and gusty winds, the odd bit of wintry hail. The dry breaks become longer in the afternoon, but it's not over. Drizzle sets in during the evening. We peak at just 14 in the city. Lots of showers in the morning, less frequent in the afternoon, drizzly at night. To the 8-day outlook, areas of drizzle do continue on Thursday morning. It breaks up during the afternoon, 17. Friday, lovely. Warm sunshine, 23, light winds. We rise to 25 on Saturday. Showers start in the late afternoon. The risk of heavy thunderstorms overnight into Sunday morning. Then you guessed it, we're back into another cold outbreak to start next week. So another cold one tomorrow, 14, lots of showers, a bit more wintry hail. But Friday, Mitch, that's great.
That's our lot at the moment, a couple of good days out of every 8.
That's pretty much where we are.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. Now here's what's on Sunrise tomorrow.
Thanks, Mitch. Tomorrow on Sunrise, the most incredible 000 call.
How an 11-year-old boy saved a woman's life and they're reunited right here.
See you in the morning, Melbourne.
And that's the way it is this Tuesday, the 15th of November. Thanks for your company. For now, from the team, good night.